everyone, welcome to our podcast. And we're pretty happy because I think many people always ask this kind of profile here in our podcast because we get a lot of questions. So I have two powerful girls here, really good profiles that I want to introduce to you. And they're gonna teach us a lot about immigration, talking mainly to students, to international students. So let's first say hello to you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Please introduce yourselves.
Sure, I'll start. My name is Rebecca Godino, and I'm a co-founder and partner at R&R Law LLP. I've been in the immigration sector for a couple of years now. I have about 5 years of legal experience. I'm a lawyer. I don't know if I mentioned that as yet. So at R&R Law LLP, we process all types of immigration applications. So that includes work permits, study permits, temporary applications, permanent residence applications like express entry, family sponsorship, and we also help companies transfer their foreign workers to Canada.
That's great. And what about you?
My name is Rima Aljaje. I'm a partner and a co-founder at R&R Law. I'm a licensed paralegal and notary public. My legal experience started 4 years ago, and I have 3 years in business immigration.
Okay, thank you. That's why I say this is a powerful profile for our episode. Yeah, they have a lot of knowledge, and we have a lot of questions about immigration. I came here as an international student 1 year ago, so I had a lot of big questions in this process. So I think it's gonna be so useful. So let's start. Okay, so I think something that is really important is the student visa. So what is the typical process that we need to do to apply for that?
So Brittany, the process of applying for a study permit in Canada is pretty straightforward. So the first thing you have to make sure that you have a letter of acceptance from a designated learning institution.
Okay.
And then the second important part is the tuition aspect or the financials. You have to make sure you have enough money to cover your first year of tuition, as well as your first year of living expenses, as well as your return transportation back to your home country. And then you have to submit your application online. So whether you're inside Canada or outside Canada, it all has to be done online. There are certain situations when you can do it via paper, but in general, it's always done online. The next thing you have to make sure that you have all the supporting documents. One of the main aspects, again, being the financials. And then you submit your application, and then it's actually a waiting game. The first thing that usually happens is you have to submit your biometrics to a visa application center closest to you. So that's your photo and your fingerprints. And then you're just waiting for IRCC to get back to you with maybe you might have to do an interview, or they might ask you for additional supporting documents. So if there's any question marks in the reviewing officer's head as to, your documents, if there's any discrepancies, if there's anything missing, that's when they come back to you asking you for additional information. And then at the end, you're hoping to receive an approval letter. So that's the rough.
And also I think one of the important things is to convince the officer that you're gonna go back again to your home country, like show some ties to your home country, because mostly sometimes we'll have rejections as the officer is not convinced that you're gonna go back to your home country.
Okay, so you can have an interview also, because when I applied, I didn't have an interview, and I didn't know you can actually have an interview, for example.
Yes,
so it can happen.
Yeah, it can happen actually. In our experience, actually none of our clients have ever had to have an interview, so I don't know if that's
not that common.
True. No, we didn't face it actually.
I think if you really cover yourself, make sure you include all the supporting documentation. If there's no questions as far as your medicals or criminal admissibility, likely won't be interviewed.
And how long it can take the process to get the approval?
So basically, it depends on IRCC processing times. Currently, the processing time, if you're applying from outside of Canada, is 10 weeks. But if you're applying for an extension from inside Canada, it might take up to 4 weeks. But however, this is an average processing time, and it might change.
Yes. So you told us that we need to prove we need to present some documents, some important documents. And one of those that made me curious about is the how I demonstrate that I have enough money to come here. Many people get scared on that. So how can you demonstrate that?
Okay, so there's a wide variety of documents that you can submit along with your application, and we always like to tell our clients provide as much supporting documentation as possible when it comes to financials or just in general. So when it comes to the finances, we always ask for bank statements, so the past 4 to 6 months. You can also show a bank draft, a guaranteed investment certificate. You can also show proof of financial assets. So if you have a home or a car, just to show that you know that you actually have.
That works.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If you're getting a loan as well, you can show that. Also, that reminded me, if your university or school or college has provided you with a scholarship, you can also show proof of that.
Like receipt.
Yes.
Okay.
And then also, or a bursary or anything like that. And then if your parents are supporting you or your family is supporting you, we usually ask them to provide a letter saying that I'm going to be supporting them for their stay, or show even their bank statements, right?
Okay.
So as much as you can to cover yourself, to show that you're going to be able to cover your living expenses during your stay in Canada.
Okay, but also, because many students don't know, maybe you don't have to bring all the money like here to survive, because you can also work.
Yes.
That's something that many students don't know, that you are eligible to work.
Yes.
So how that works, about the part-time, the full-time, the breaks, because I didn't know, for example, that on break you can
scheduled
work more.
breaks. Yes.
So how that works?
As a general rule, students can work only up to 20 hours per week. However, there was a regulation that came into effect from IRCC last year, in October, that allowed students to work full-time up to 40 hours, and sometimes they can do overtime if the students are enrolled full-time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, didn't know that.
Exactly. So their program should be full-time. They can't work full-time if they're on a part-time basis, studying part-time basis.
Okay, so only part-time if you're studying part-time.
Yes, they can work only 20 hours if they are studying part-time. However, they can also work during their scheduled breaks, during summer break, winter break, also during the reading weeks. They can work. They can work 40 hours, and also they can do overtime.
Okay.
However, they can't work full-time during scheduled breaks if their upcoming semester is not going to be full-time.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And they can't work full-time of up to 40 hours if they're having their first semester coming up.
Okay.
So they should have a full-time, they should be studying full-time before and full-time after.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. And how can, I mean, if you don't follow that, what can happen on your status?
So it might not like have a huge impact on your status. Like you can renew your student permit or your study permit, but you might have complications when it comes to applying for your permanent residency, when you have to calculate your hours of working. So this is when it's tricky and it comes like really annoying, you know?
Okay, this is this question is gonna help a lot of people, because I don't know if it's so common, but my family always asked me when I came here, but you cannot leave the country like until you complete. I don't know if it's like a rumor that exists or something, right? So can we as international students go outside the country? How that works, and when maybe you cannot go outside?
Sure, yes. This is a question that comes up quite a bit in our practice as well. So no, there's not really restrictions as such for you to travel back and forth, as long as you have two crucial documents. So one being your study permit, and one being a valid study permit and a valid TRV stamp. So, you know, a lot of individuals get confused between the two, so I just want to make the distinction there.
Okay.
So when you apply for a study permit and you get the study permit approval letter, you have to submit your passport for stamping, right?
Yeah.
So when it gets stamped, they put a counterfoil, and that is called your visa. So your visa, your TRV, is what actually allows you to travel in and out of Canada. Whereas the study permit, so when you land, when you're doing your initial landing, you're issued a document, right? Which is your study permit, which has all the conditions of your studies.
Yeah.
That's what actually allows you to study in Canada or have a status in Canada. So that's the difference. So as long as both of those are valid, there should be no issues as long as you're meeting all the other admissibility criteria that you met at the time of originally entering Canada. So as long as you have those two, you're good to travel back and forth.
It works. Okay.
Yeah, you just have to make sure it's valid.
Yeah. And when can happen that I cannot go outside, just if my visa expired?
Yes, that's correct.
I mean, I can go outside, but I cannot
So
come
basically,
back.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Basically, it allows you to exit Canada, but you can't re-enter. Well, sometimes you might, but it's a huge risk, you know? Like, yeah, it's not that easy. So it's better to have a valid visa so it will facilitate your travels.
Okay, and I have seen that, for example, your study permit and your visa, they don't expire the same day or month sometimes. Yeah, some people get confused about, okay, by my study permit expired, but my visa is still active, so I can continue in the country.
It's because the student is on a visa.
Okay.
They can still be in Canada, but if their study permit is expired, they can't continue studying unless they renew their study permit.
Or working, I guess. They cannot continue working, right?
Like
their
their
benefit of the
status.
student.
Yes, exactly. Like their status is like expired, right?
Yeah.
They need to renew it in order to continue studying or working.
Okay. And yeah, we were talking about what happened if your visa expired, right? So can we extend our visa and how that work and which visa should we choose, for example?
Yes, definitely. Students can extend. It's not it's not a difficult process.
Okay.
They can go online and apply through the IRCC portal. However, their visa should be extended to the same duration as their permit. So in order to extend your visa, the stamp on your passport, you first need to extend your permit. And then your visa is gonna be extended because of your permit. You know, like your visa relies on the permit.
And what happens if I'm not going to continue with my study permit, for example? Because after that, some colleges gives you the post-graduation work permit. So how can I extend that visa in that case? Which visa I choose? Or is just like a normal tourist visa?
No, so once you switch to a work permit, in general, not a specific work permit, like in any work permit, your visa would be changed to a work visa. It will not stay as a study visa. You know, like because the visa stamp on your passport, it will match with whatever permit you have. So if you applied for a study permit, you're gonna have a student visa. But if you applied for a work permit, you're gonna have a work visa. Yes.
Because I have had some people that I know that what they do is that they try to apply like for the tourist visa, like the normal
like the
visitor visa. Yeah, that one. So that's not correct.
Well, actually, the process of applying, you're gonna apply for a visitor visa. Right? The form asks you the purpose of your entry to Canada, and there where you have to select. And also, when you're extending, you're also attaching your permit, right, as a proof. So yeah, this is how it works.
So I think it's time to learn from others' mistakes because that happens so much. So which mistakes, I think you have done a lot of cases. So which mistakes you see like, oh my God, this is so common?
Yes, actually going back to something Rima mentioned earlier is not showing enough ties back to your home country. So that could be family ties, assets back home, community ties. Another really important factor is a lot of times applicants just submit the documents based on the IRCC document checklist that's provided, which is really just the minimum amount of documents you have to submit. And I don't blame applicants because they're just going by what they see on the website. You know, when they hire a professional or immigration law firm, we're able to really give them an idea of what goes into the application. One thing we like to provide on behalf of our clients is called a covering letter or a letter of explanation.
Okay.
Where you give your whole story to the reviewing officer. You explain your background, you explain why you chose the specific program.
Okay.
You also explain, if you have a background in engineering, for example, and then you are applying for something that's totally unrelated, like you're applying for a master's in IT, what's the relationship between those two programs?
Okay, so it makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, it has to make sense. It has to be a natural career trajectory. So that all goes into the letter of explanation. Now, if there's anything off with your documents, for example, your birth certificate has your mother's name, the spelling is off. Okay. Or if you go by several different names and when the reviewing officer is looking at your documents, something is off.
Yeah.
So basically you want that whoever's looking at your file, when they're reviewing your documents, if there's any question marks, that's being addressed in your letter of explanation.
Okay.
And so that, everything goes smoothly. So that's something we find that is not being included in these applications, which is a very crucial part to avoid a refusal later.
And because I think for young people, it's hard to show, have like assets or something, because maybe you don't have anything, you just want to go and continue your career.
Right.
For example, for a young person, like how can we demonstrate that? Like if we can have like a small example or something.
If you don't really have any assets, and you're more so maybe relying on your parents or family members, that's when you show their assets, right? So if they own a home or whatever's in their bank account, you kind of have to rely on that, and you have to definitely show the proof of relationship between you and that person. So that's how you would get around that.
Yes, and I think here when it comes the letter from the supporters explaining that we're supporting our son with this specific amount reflected there, and it should be signed by them as well.
Okay. And I think a lot of people come and they really love the country, so they want to continue their lives here. And I know Canada offers that option, like you can continue like settling here. So which options have an international student to settle here?
Right, so as you may know, international students first they have the option to apply for a postgraduate work permit, and after obtaining this permit they can work for any employer across Canada because it's technically an open work permit. It doesn't make you like work for a specific employer. After a year of working, they have a lot of options. They have the provincial nominee programs, and there are plenty of programs. For example, in Ontario, they have the international student stream. And they have the employer job offer based stream. It's for foreign workers. However, these two streams rely on job offers.
You need to have one.
Yes.
And I guess it's not any random job offer. It needs to meet some requirements.
Yes, definitely. The wage requirement is the most important requirement, and also to be full-time and be permanent as well, Other pathways, they can go with the express entry pathway under CEC. However, they have to have a year of work experience in Canada for an employer under a specific NOC code.
It's mandatory to apply to express entry, to have the 1 year work experience.
Yes, to be eligible for express entry under CEC, you have to have a year of experience inside Canada under a specific tier, like tier 0, 1, 2, or 3. And the last option is if you have a spouse or common law partner who is already Canadian, they can sponsor you under the family sponsorship stream.
And so if I wanna, because sometimes people, they don't have like enough points for express entry, and you believe that you already did all in your hands possible. So what can you do to improve that profile?
As you may know, like to be eligible for express entry, you have to have the basics, like having language tests, also having like the minimum education requirements, also work experience as well. So, and most of us noticed nowadays, like the scores are really up high.
Yeah.
People are really like they are in the pool, but they're not getting selected and having an invitation to apply. So what we always advise clients, we will be like, try to improve your language test, have a higher score in 4 bands. So this might like push your score a little bit up. Also, one of the best actually ways to have more points is having a job offer based on an LMIA. It can be a regular LMIA or an LMIA exempt, and in this way you can obtain up to 200 points. It might be 50 or 200 points, and if you can get this will really push your score. Last advice that we usually like tell our clients to try to obtain 2 degrees. Like if our client already have a degree, we usually tell the client, try to enroll in a program for 1 year, especially for the ones who are in Canada, right? A 1-year program would be good to push your score up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have another question, because sometimes when most people come here and they want to study and then they get the post-graduation work permit, right? But can happen that, for example, you could only study 1 year because maybe 2 years were so expensive or any other reasons, right? So if your post-graduation work permit is gonna expire, but you still don't have enough points for express entry, for example, or you haven't completed that 1 year of experience, what can you do? Like, which options?
Well, in this situation, you should look for an employer that can provide you with an offer.
Okay.
Based on an LMIA, so you can convert your postgraduate work permit into a closed work permit.
Okay.
Yes, and in this situation, you can maintain your status in Canada, and you will have more score for your express entry application, and you might then get selected because based on the LMIA, you're gonna get 50 points based on your tier or NOC code, or you might get 200 points.
Okay.
Yes.
Or maybe can you apply to the provincial nominee program?
You can apply for the provincial nominee program, but again, you need a job offer.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Important, the job offer, guys.
Yes. Job offer.
Just run for the job offer.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And what can we expect in the future about immigration in Canada? Because there has been a lot of speculations and the government is going to save more people, no more people. So what can we expect?
Yes, so actually last month, IRCC released their 2024 to 2026 immigration levels plan.
Okay.
And they're targeting about 500 new permanent residents for 2024 and 2025.
Okay.
So, Canada's really opening their arms to newcomers, and they're also placing an emphasis on actually supporting the newcomers when they enter Canada. So where it comes to housing or other settlement services, they're really placing a focus on that as well.
Okay, that's great. I think those are all my questions, but maybe in the audience, if you have questions, because I know you should have any question, you can leave it on the comments and we can make a conversation there. Maybe there is another immigrant that can know that answer, so it's gonna be so helpful. Thank you so much for your time.
Sure, definitely. Thank you for having us as well today.
I hope you feel comfortable. I thank you for giving us all those knowledge, because it's pretty much important for us as immigrants here.
No problem. And go ahead.
Thank you so much for having us as well, Brittany. It's been a really great conversation. And I just wanted to add, if anyone in your audience has any further questions for us, they're welcome to contact us on any of our social media platforms.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
I'm gonna leave on the description of this video their profiles, like their contact profiles, so you can reach them in any time if you have any questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so
too.
much.
Thank you.
And please stay tuned for future episodes. Have a nice day.